For 7 o'clock on August 21st, and we'll call the State and City Council meeting to order. Please join me in a flag salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Julie, do we have a word from Councilor Giglio?
I have not heard from him. We met this afternoon, so I expect him to be here.
Okay. Everyone's here with the exception of Councilor Giglio, and hopefully we'll await his arrival. With that, we'll get started. Is there any announcements or additions to the agenda? Anybody? No? Declarations of ex-party contact, conflict of interest, bias, etc.? No? Is there any appointments? I don't think so. There's Councilor Giglio. Give him a second to get up here. Okay. No appointments, Julia, that you know of?
What's that?
No appointments? Okay, thanks.
Sorry.
All right, so we'll move on to public comment. Quick note, you guys should have received public comment in your email this afternoon from a resident on Oak Street, so I'll refer to that as you have time to look at it. With that, we have 3 folks signed up for public comment, and just to remind the audience, this is an opportunity for you to express your opinions during those 3 minutes that you have allotted to you. It's not necessarily time for the council to exchange comments back. This is for us to receive your comments and take note of it. So if there's anything that needs to be followed up, staff will follow up with you after the meeting. With that, Christopher Walker, please come up. You state your address, please, and what you want to talk about.
Christopher Walker, my address.
Can you make sure that your green light is on the microphone?
Just press that button there.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Christopher Walker, and I live at 155 South Evergreen. And this is my first time addressing the council, and I just prepared a quick statement for you. My name is Christopher Walker, and I'm a resident of the city of Stayton, and I live near the Evergreen and Maple Street location. This is one of the published locations that's been designated by the city council as an authorized camping location for the homeless. What I've done since Friday at 4 o'clock until Sunday afternoon, I walked to 81 of my neighbors' houses, and I knocked on their door asking if they were aware of the homeless camping that is now in effect for our neighborhood. I was able to collect 71 signatures with their names and email addresses that I printed out on my label maker to make sure that they were clear, to add to the homeless interested parties list so that they are now going to receive direct information from the city manager. I was not the only person that was blindsided by the locations being published in the paper. I have heard council's response had been that there was a rogue reporter that listed 3 locations that should not have been printed. But no matter what or why it happened, the cow is out of the barn. The reporter was not incorrect. The fact is that those locations are in fact open for business, and it is public knowledge. There's no mixing of words or explanation of why it was published. All is just water under the bridge. The survey and the paper water bill. Over 90% of the houses that I visited are like myself, and we do not get paper water bills because we get the electric water bill with the auto pay because we're trying to be conservative and use electronic. That's why we didn't do that. There are 8,100 people in the city of Stayton. From my understanding, there was only 375 people from the paper water bill that responded, which is 0.046%, or less than 1/2 of 1%. 375 people have made the decision for 8,100 of us. One reason for the low response rate is lack of notification. It's not uninterested in the issues, especially this issue. There should have been a citywide mailing like the one notice that was sent for the repairs that were done on Ida. You can send a notice out about a 2-minute travel delay, but not about the homeless camping that has a myriad of issues that affect our home values, our safety, serenity, and security of our children and our elderly. In that survey of 10 questions, one was, where do you not want to see the homeless? And many of them said the park. But what was not said is, if you pick the park, then we will put them next to your house. We have 5,822 registered voters in the city of Stayton. I got that information from County Elections Office. That's 15%. 15% of the 5,822 is 873.3. That's 874 registered voters is all that is needed to make a stand and start an initiative. This issue is way too big for it not to come in front of the voters. The issue is too far-reaching and multi-level impact on the residents. Our property values, for one, not to mention the safety issues that are inherent with the homeless population. Everybody has a connotation in the picture of the Marion Bridge underneath Market Street in Salem, and what a debacle that was, just getting off at the exit. We, the residents of Stayton, are not mental health professionals nor drug counselors, and by allowing these locations in such close proximity to our young children and older senior adults, the city has now put the policing onus on us, the residents, to live with the situation every day and every night, and only to report when things get out of hand. I have not only reached out personally to each and every one of my neighbors to inform them and gather feedback, but to also carry voter registration cards that I have on my clipboard that I got from Postal Connection, Sue Hartaloo, to, as I enter and talk to my resident neighbors, that if they're not a registered voter, that I'm giving them the opportunity to fill out the form and then take it up to Sue, and Sue has graciously agreed to make sure that it gets transmitted to the Marion County Board of Elections so we can get more people involved. I'm trying to make this the most positive impact I can when I go to each of the homes. But I did 81. I gathered 71 signatures and legible emails to add to our ability to disperse information so people don't get blindsided. So I'm not only here to criticize, I'm trying to tell you that I'm part of the solution and trying to be, as democratic as I can. The unintended consequences of this undertaking is making our neighborhood even closer and bringing us all together. And what I have right here, these are the tools of change: a label maker and a clipboard and a passion. And I think what I will say is, my neighbors know my name, they know my face, and I will go, if that's what it takes to put this initiative in front of the voters, I will knock on every house in Stayton, because I think it's only fair. And I'm fighting for my house, and I ask people in the community, if not me, then who? And that's all I have.
Thank you. Josh Spencer.
Hello, my name is Josh Spencer. I live at 213 North Oak Avenue. I'm here to comment about you people destroying me financially, putting my family, my wife, my daughters in extreme danger every day now. Our home value is gone. And the interesting thing is the door out here, it says no smoking or doing anything within 10 foot of this building, correct? You're putting homeless 9 foot from my daughter's window. Measured it, 9 foot. Do we know who the people are? We don't. Will you patrol them, keep them under control? You won't. Will it turn in, will 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. turn into all day? It will. Just like everywhere else in this, I'd say country, but state. Marion County for sure. Multnomah County would be another. And then, do we get extra patrols? What protects our house? I'm at the corner, essentially, of what will be Homeless Avenue. Foot traffic all up and down in front of my house, my kids, my car. I mean, can't leave anything on the front porch, can't leave anything unlocked, can't leave the trash out. You know, I mean, you can't do anything. You have people crawling all over everything we own, everything we have. And why? This property right here, 8 to 9, you're not conducting business here. You're not conducting business 8 to 9 at home at City Hall, are you? Where they're not camping there. Why do we take the hit? Why do you get to pass off the problem to the residents? How does that make sense? It's not fair. We didn't vote on it. I mean, I just found out 2 weeks ago it's even happening. And you're talking about putting God knows who 9 foot from my kid's window, 12 foot from the front door of my house. How is that fair? What gives you the right to do that? To destroy me, to destroy my neighbors, and anybody else close to that area? Fire department's going to immediately build a fence, of course, which makes us the main foot traffic. Every time we go out the house, what are we going to see? You've basically made our little town a ghetto right there, our little neighborhood. You could say it won't happen that way, but we've all seen it. We know what's going to happen. So what about all the human feces and drugs and needles and their animals' feces and their trash, and when they're out there having a fire and cooking, and who's going to be there to stop them? Pick it up, clean it up, keep it away from the kids in the neighborhood, which we have over 12 kids in the neighborhood, mind you, that play there, ride their bikes there, like to play hide and seek there, you know, that kind of stuff. Kid stuff, normal stuff, while you move to a neighborhood like we did. Let's see, the home value drops. On average throughout the state, if it's within a block of your home, you're expected to lose at least 50% of your value. I'm losing hundreds of thousands of dollars just by piss poor management, to be quite honest. Will there be any compensation? No. We just take the financial hit, you get to hide the homeless, and then it becomes our problem. And that's what's going to happen, like it's happened everywhere else in this state. So I just want you to know that I'm very ashamed of all of you. And yeah, maybe you shouldn't be sitting where you are.
Ray Hanna. Ray Hanna.
Hello, my name is Ray Hanna. I'm Josh's neighbor. I'm at 237 North Oak Avenue. I found out by chance that this was happening. I do get the paper water bills, but nobody reads the stuff in there. I did get the notice about the repair on the street, so something makes me think that you didn't want us all to know about this unilateral decision you've made to ruin my neighborhood and our property values. I moved to this town after living in many cities in this country. I lived in San Francisco, where we were importuned on the street by mental health outpatients, turned loose from the mental health facilities that were closed by then Governor Reagan and then President Reagan, people who would jack you up on the street and, let's just say, panhandle in a very aggressive manner. I've seen what's happened in our cities around this country with this homeless problem. I don't have a solution. I know you don't. Putting them at the end of my street is something that's not going to fly. I found out about this by chance because Chris knocked on my door yesterday and revealed this plan that you have to do this to us. It's not going to stand. It's not going to fly. At the very least, we're going to get it on the ballot. Now, I've been in this city for 12 years now. I know some of the city properties that are in control of the city. There are many of them that are away from residences that are not going to destroy property values and not put Josh's kids at risk and the other 12 kids on my street. And it's only a one-block street. It's a dead-end street, which, by the way, is 25 feet from the Stayton Canal. Did you know that? Anybody thought about that? What's going to happen when these people are dumping all sorts of things in that canal? It's a bad idea, folks. Okay? And as word gets out, despite your best efforts, we're going to put a stop to it. All right? Are we clear? Everybody hear me? You got my address, you got my name. We can talk about this some more in person if you like. It's not going to happen.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I say something real
Go
quick?
ahead, Counselor.
I just want to say I appreciate everybody's passion. Chris, I definitely like what you're doing, going talking to your neighbors and making sure everybody's aware and involved. I would encourage anyone that wants to come. We have a task force that's been formed. It's been meeting for months now. Myself and Councilor Giglio, as well as a group of other Stayton residents and business owners, have been meeting for months to talk about this particular issue, how we're going to deal with it, what our options are, how we're going to comply with state law. So I'd definitely encourage you to show up. We're meeting at least once a month, so you can understand kind of what we're facing with this issue and what our options are and why we've kind of moved in the direction we have. We definitely aren't trying to do anything to anyone or ruin anybody's property values or force anything on you. We're trying to come up with a least bad solution to a problem that doesn't have a good solution. But I definitely want you to stay involved and come listen to our meetings and understand all the details of what we're dealing with. I think you'll have a little bit, hopefully a little bit better opinion and kind of understand where we're coming from with the decisions that we make. That's all. If you're going to stick around, I'd love to talk to you after the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor
Is
Giglio.
that the last
Go ahead.
public comment? Was that the last comment?
Yes, we only had
yeah.
three.
All
Yep.
right. Just to, I guess, just to comment on the public comment. I mean, I think I made my opinion kind of clear last council meeting, that I did feel like this was going to be the response in terms of the only reason I think at the end of the day I did vote, even though I think that the daytime camping is a very helpful measure, because it does ensure that people can be moved along every day, and I think that's helpful. But why I was pushing having Wilco Road and alternative sites proposed outside of residential areas was because I do think that as a long-term solution, these definitely are not. These are not the right choices. I think that what Chief Johns said last week, 1 month ago, was very, very helpful for me. Ultimately, after we had made the addition of the daytime camping going along as a short-term solution, when the chief let us know that homeless individuals are not going to be directed anywhere. They're going to specifically being said just said they can't be where they're at, and so there's not going to be any like designated long-term camping allowed anywhere in the city, and so that was helpful. However, I definitely understand the fear and the rightful fear of, well, what if they still come and it's still an issue? And I think that's a very, very legitimate concern, and one that I don't think is acceptable as to, like, if in residential areas as a long-term, as any type of if that becomes a problem. So I definitely do want to say I hear those comments, and you know, I do think that there are better properties. I don't think there's a lot of them, but I do think there are a couple better properties that are better solutions. As we continue this conversation, I do really appreciate that input, and I want just to encourage you guys to continue to do that work. And so, yeah, I just wanted to say that, and just continue and encourage you guys to stay at the end of the meeting, and would love to hear more as well.
Thanks, Counselor. Mr. Walker, what you said about it's galvanized the community, you bet it has. We've had more folks attend our meetings over the last 5 months than we've ever seen in person, which is fantastic. To your point about it being an issue that we up here created, that's absolutely not true. We are in this position today because of a court order from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. That's why every single city within the state of Oregon is facing the same thing. And we are doing our best to try to mitigate it up until a point where we have to. The reason why the initial homeless task force was put in place was to look at the ordinance to make sure we were in compliance with state law. And this is an ongoing, continuous effort that we're looking at. The task force is still in place. We're still going to have to determine what's what. One of these properties is directly across the street from my house. So if you think that I don't share the same concerns that you do, you're kidding yourself. The second piece is that it's continuously ongoing. There's all sorts of pieces that we still don't know as far as what's allowed, what's permissible. We encourage you to come to the homeless task force meetings, continue to talk to everybody on this meeting, because the stuff I heard tonight is simply not accurate. We're not forcing anybody anywhere. We're not designating anything. It's just the evolution of what we're trying to deal with to contend with the state statute that the legislature put in place.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Giglio.
I would like to just add one thing. I just had a couple questions. I know we are out of the agenda right now, but I do have a couple, just maybe 2 quick questions. One for the manager, and then one for the chief, just on this issue. Or would it be better just to wait until the end of the meeting?
Yeah, let's wait to the end. Let's move on to the rest of the agenda.
Sounds good.
Okay, with that, let's go to the consent agenda. What would the council like to do with the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Hort.
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilor Petty. I second that motion.
Okay, moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda as submitted. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries 5-0. Presentations, Jana.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to give you a summer reading recap. So this summer, 949 people participated in our summer reading program designed and developed by our library team. See if this lets me click on it. These are pictures from our first ever Big Rig Roundup. So rigs from 13 local businesses and organizations joined us as their drivers showcased their vehicles interacting with over 200 children and their families. We had performances by Natalia Pailis, Alex Zerbe, Vicki Glasgow-Green, and Angel Ocasio. It was also a summer of story time, STEAM activities, puppet shows, crafts, readers, cafes, and special visits from the Museum of Natural and Cultural History and author Marie Bostwick. Here you can see readers exploring music as they start to put together the music notes they earned this summer in a Build a Song challenge. And customizing their summer reading shirts they earned for reading for 30 days. so that they can walk the red carpet in the fashion show. You can also see 2 of our volunteers who provided scheduled sewing hours in the library to help kids and adults bring their designs to life. We wrapped up summer reading with a celebration in Community Center Park. It included a readers concert, a fashion show, and a picnic lunch. A professional musician played song compositions submitted by readers working on the Build a Song Challenge, and the crowd voted on their favorites. Children joined Jennifer on the stage and walked the red carpet in their summer reading shirts that they earned, customized, and accessorized this summer. We had a fantastic summer reading season, and none of it would be possible without our incredible library crew and our amazing volunteers. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Is there any questions for Jenna? No? Great job, Jenna.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you.
New staff introductions. Julia and Chief?
Yeah, is Sophia? Oh, can we move this till after the
Sure.
public hearing?
Yep, we'll do that.
Okay.
We'll move it
Thank
7B
you.
down to after the public hearing. With that, we will move to the public hearing on ordinance number 1064, vacation of alleyway between North First Avenue and North Second Avenue. And so before I start the public hearing, I need to read this. Good evening, my name is Brian Quigley. I am the City of Stayton Mayor, and I will be presiding over this hearing. This is the time and place set for the public hearing, the matter of land use file number 506/23, a request to vacate the alley between North First Avenue and North Second Avenue, running from East Hollister Street to East Pine Street. The hearing is now open. Vacations of streets and alleys is the subject of Oregon Revised Statutes, Chapter 271, Section 130. The statute establishes a criterion of determining that the vacation would not prejudice the public interest. All testimony, arguments, and evidence received during this public hearing must be directed toward this approval criterion or to such other rule, law, regulation, or policy which you believe to apply to this case. If you have documents, maps, or letters that you wish to have considered by this body, they must formally be placed in the record of this proceeding. To do that, either before or after you speak, please submit them electronically to the planning staff. Prior to the conclusion of this hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence, arguments, or testimony regarding the application involved here. Continuances may take the form of holding an additional public hearing with oral testimony allowed, or may consist of holding the evidentiary record open for a period of time designated by the city for submittal from the public of written evidence. At this time, I would ask the audience if there are any objections to the notice that was provided in this case. I hear none. To the jurisdiction of this body to hear and consider this case. I hear none. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest, ex parte contact, or bias by any members of the commission or the council? I hear none. If you're providing testimony during the public hearing, please state your name, address, and address for the record. As a participant in the hearing, the city is required to notify you of the final results of the process. And with that, we'll do the staff introduction.
And as Jim is turning on his microphone, I just wanted to introduce you to Jim Jacks. He's our contract planner with the Minnetonka Valley Council of Governments, who's been helping out while we are filling Dan's position. So Jim, take it away.
Thank you for the introduction, and Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I am the interim city planning director, and I forget the exact title, but with Dan's departure, I've been here about 5 weeks now. And so this one item that's before you tonight is a vacation of the alley, as indicated in the mayor's oral statement. It's between First and Second, and then Pine Street to the north, Hollister to the south. And on the first page of the staff report, there is an air photo with the alley running down the middle and the eastern half of the block on the right side and the western half of the block on the left side. The application materials include the signatures of all the owners abutting or adjacent to the alley, and at least 2/3 of the signatures of property owners in the affected area. The notice of the hearing was published in the Statesman Journal, and a sign was posted at each end of the alley. And again, as indicated in the mayor's statement, Oregon Revised Statute 271-120 includes the approval criterion, which is that the public interest will not be prejudiced. And the Oregon Revised Statute approval criterion is the only one because the Stayton Development Code does not have approval criteria for right-of-way or alley vacations. Let's see, the Planning Commission held a hearing on July 31st, and there was no opposition to vacating the alley. The Commission's recommendation or order of recommendation is in your packet material. And a comment from the city engineer was that there is a storm drain pipe in the alley and a storm drain catch basin in the alley, and if the alley is vacated, then those two items, the pipe and the catch basin that are now part of the public system, would no longer be public. They would be part of a private system, and the private property owner would be responsible for those in the future. So, excuse me, the staff recommendation is that and your standard staff reports have several options for the council, and one is that the alley be vacated, adopting ordinance 1064 as presented, and that is the staff recommendation. The second option is that the alley be vacated, adopting ordinance 1064 with modifications. If there's some modification that you want to have included that is justified, then that can be done. Staff does not see nor is aware of any, but if you find something that is appropriate to be added or a change to the proposed ordinance, then that would be mentioned tonight. The third option is to retain the alley. In other words, deny the request for the alley vacation. The fourth item is to continue the hearing until September 18. The fifth item is close the hearing, but keep the record open for the submission of additional written testimony. And item number 6 is close the hearing and the record, and either deliberate to a certain amount tonight and then continue that to September 18, or what staff would anticipate is that, given there don't seem to be any complications with this, you would go ahead and do your deliberation and conclude the deliberation with a motion that would be option number 1. So I think I will end my comments, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to entertain those.
Thank you. So is there not an applicant presentation then? Or is there?
I think that I'm not sure if the applicant is here. We sort of combined the staff report and the introduction, so
Okay.
if you don't have questions of Jim, then is the applicant here, Jim?
I don't know.
Okay. Is there questions from the council?
Mr. Mayor, I had a question.
Councilor Sims, go ahead.
Jim, that whole block, is that all owned by Dark Horse Enterprises, the veterinary clinic? So they own that whole block,
I
correct?
believe it is now.
Okay, since they own the whole thing, I guess they don't need a right-of-way is what I'm looking at. Okay, thanks.
Right, as part of the vacation by state law, the eastern half of the alley would go to the owner of the property on the east half, which is Dark Horse, and then the western half of the alley would go to the owners of the property on the west half, which, as I understand it, is also Dark Horse.
Jim, I have a question. What's the land value of that alley? Do you know?
No, I don't know.
Okay. I think in past, we've looked at vacation, and I don't know that the question was ever posed that there's a value of city property that we're giving up freely. I'm just curious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's in a way, it's city property. It's really public property. It's not something that the city owns in fee simple, for example. We don't have a deed for it.
Correct.
But I know that some cities do have concerns about rights of way, particularly wider ones that are streets that are then vacated, and sometimes it can be a reasonable amount of land that is, I guess you'd say, deeded to the abutting property owners.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Thanks, Jim. Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Ort?
Oh, Jim, I'm sorry, I have a question for you. So regarding that, the issue with the pipe and whatnot, the applicant is aware and fine with taking over that responsibility?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, this property, as relayed to me by Dan, I'm not sure, but just a couple of years ago was the subject of some zone changes and comp plan map changes to get everything in a commercial comp plan designation and everything in the commercial general zone. And so there's been quite a bit of discussion between the property owners and what they're wanting to do and accomplish, and what the city processes are for them to be able to achieve those goals.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Is there any proponents' testimony? No. Any opponents' testimony? Nope. Any neutral or other testimony? Nope. Another opportunity for questions from the council? Okay. Applicant summary. Okay. Jim, one more time, staff summary.
Hardly have time to write down a couple of notes. The staff recommendation is that the City Council pass Ordinance 1064 vacating the subject right-of-way, the alley right-of-way.
Okay, thank you. With that, we're going to close the hearing, and we'll let council deliberate.
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilor Patty.
Councilor Patty, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd also kind of be curious about your question as far as value of vacated land. So maybe going forward, we can have some discussions about that, Julia, kind of understanding what that looks like. But outside of that, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Cool. Mr. Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 1064 as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 1064. Tammy, can you pull, any other discussion? Okay. Tammy, we poll the council, please?
Councilor Sims,
Yes.
Councilor McDonald,
Yes.
Councilor Patty,
Yes.
Councilor Ort,
Yes.
Councilor Gilio.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Where is that?
And just
Got
to
it.
note, because it was passed unanimously, that you are doing it in one evening,
Yes.
so this, you will not see this again.
Yep. I do need to read a closing statement. The commission's decision will be forwarded to the never mind. Strike that. All right, that leaves us with communication from city staff.
Actually, 7B.
Oh, sorry, let's go back to 7B.
Yeah, and I don't believe Kendra Fury, who is our code compliance officer, she was unexpectedly out today, and so I don't believe she's here this evening. But Chief Johns, do you want to introduce Sergeant Bielenberg? But we will get Kendra in front of you guys at the next meeting.
So Mayor and Council, it's my honor and privilege tonight to introduce to you our newest sergeant. She did start with the city on July 10th. She's had a period of where she's got to ride with all the different officers on all the different shifts and get an intro to who they are and where they're wanting to go with their careers and where they're at right now. Then she's gotten to shadow our two other sergeants and their shifts that they handle, and then already getting broke in with being on call. Her and I worked last night and didn't leave till probably 1:30 in the morning, and she got called bright and early this morning before Graveyard had even gone home. So she's definitely broke into all the ups and downs and goods and bads of being a first line supervisor. We're very thrilled and excited to have Sophia Bielenberg working for us, and I will let her give an introduction of her background and experience to you.
Hi. I'm Sophia Bielenberg. Hi, everybody. I feel like I'm giving my back away. Born and raised in Israel. I moved into Oregon in 2015. I worked for the Marion County Sheriff Office as a correction deputy and then enforcement. Started here in July 10th. My family lives here. That's my town. I love it here. That's my community. So I'm passionate about this area, and I'm hoping to do the best job I can for the city and for the people here. So if you have any questions for me.
Any questions for Sergeant?
No questions. Yes.
Thanks for jumping ship.
Yes. Yes. I'm right away into it, so thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. With that, we'll go to communication from city staff. Julia?
So I have a few things. One, I just wanted to, well, I don't normally get to chime in after public comments. I wanted to remind the council, but also the public, that we, staff and council, also are very interested in getting input, and so it hurts my heart when I hear people say that we tried to do things intentionally uninvolved. And I just wanted to remind you and let them know that as part of that commitment, the council and the budget committee approved a community engagement coordinator position with the sole intent of trying to help us do better. You know, we try to do outreach and do all the things that that come to mind, and certainly are always trying to improve, and I think that will continue to improve as we get this position hired. So I just wanted to put that out there, that we take constructive criticism and will continue to improve. So just wanted to put that out there. Also wanted to remind the council that we are planning on, unless we hear otherwise, a special council meeting next week for the Douglas Street Waterline project contract award. We'll let you know as it gets closer. If that's not going to happen, it will be a very short meeting, so we're hoping actually to do that via Zoom, just so we don't have to set this whole meeting up and the camera up. If we could do it via Zoom, that would be the easiest for all, I believe. And again, with the sole purpose of that particular topic, so that we can award a contract and not have to wait a month before the next meeting. The camping ordinance has been in effect since last week, and we haven't heard of any issues. Police, and actually I'm going to invite Gwen up, because I'm going to ask her to talk about the next topic that she wanted to share about as well. But my understanding is that police have done patrols of the city and the parks and not found any issues. But did you want to share a little bit more about that, as well as talk about the safety town plans?
Absolutely. And what I'll tell you too is Sergeant Bielenberg was happy to come tonight, but she's also very humble in sharing her background. I will tell you, with county, she was very active with community engagement, so we saw her often over here at the community dinner. So she does have a very strong background with community engagement. She is also on the county SWAT team. She serves as a negotiator, and we will be continuing her involvement with that. So that's a county asset that we have, with having her background here in the city and having that relationship with the county as well. So I just wanted to say that. As far as the camping, yes, since it is in effect, we've made sure to do patrols of the city properties, including the parks, where we've had some issues, and then as well as the properties that people are here tonight to speak about. So we've not had any reported issues that I'm aware of, and this morning an officer walked those and drove out to those properties, and there were no problems that he found. So we are addressing any that are reported, if they're reported, and then trying to be proactive in having eyes on the properties. And then staff update. So I just excited to share with you that a program that the police department will be introducing next summer. We're going to be bringing Safety Town to Stayton. And what that is, the police department here is going to partner with the library. And Safety Town is a kids' day camp. It focuses on safety. And it's a week-long camp where the kids come for a couple hours in the morning. The young kids learn safety lessons to include fire safety, personal safety, animal safety, you name it. It kind of is how we form it here in Stayton as well. We do a 911 piece where they learn their address and phone number and how to report an emergency. And then ideally, the little guys are getting the benefit by learning the safety lessons, but what we found when I ran it at my previous agency is that the middle school and high school students that serve as the counselors are getting just as much a benefit out of it. So we actually run like a job interview for the counselors that want to come in and mentor the little guys. And so there's a lot of life lessons in the camp, and partnering with the library here in Stayton is just kind of a natural. They do such amazing programs already, and so to bring this sort of program to our community, both the police department and library, we're pretty excited about.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Orr, go ahead.
Chief, what are the ages for the participants and then for the student volunteers?
So traditionally, 5 and 6 is the idea, kids that are going into kindergarten and first grade. But we're going to kind of look at how do we want it to look here in our community. You'll find them nationally in Oregon. I've seen them in Hillsborough and Newburgh, and then I've seen other communities that do something a little similar but may not call it Safety Town. So Jan and I are going to work really to what we want it to look like in our community. Ideally 5 and 6 for the campers, and then the counselors would be middle school, can be high school. And in Newburgh we actually had counselors that went off to college and asked if they could come back and serve in like a head counselor. Jennifer from the library, myself, and records went over and visited Newburgh's Safety Town here. And it was pretty exciting to see that some of the former campers are now serving as counselors. So it's very impactful and just, you know, on a lot of levels, creating relationships and obviously the safety impact of teaching those lessons.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor.
Thank you. First off, Gwen, I love this. This is really cool. I was kind of curious, though. I've seen in other events similar to this one where state police will be handing out goodie bags that have like missing kid kits. I don't know the technical term for them, but I don't know. I think that kind of blends in really well to kind of what you're talking about here. So I was curious if you would engage state police partners or even county police partners if they want to have a face at this. So I don't know. Just an idea.
And we can. And so. And I can give more on what this will look like, but this truly is a camp for the kids. And so we do give resources for the parents as well. There's a graduation at the end, but it's about singing songs. All the songs are safety related, about crosswalks and looking left, looking right. You know, we actually get little go-karts and the kids ride around on them. They have to put their helmets on, buckle them. The ones that we used previously, the Ford dealership installed seat belts, so the kids had to buckle up. And so it's really holistic in safety all the way around. We had the fire department come in and do a whole lesson on fire safety. Power company come in, someone bring a dog in and do a presentation on how you engage with a dog that you see in the public and how you ask permission first before you pet someone's dog. So lots of different stuff. 911 simulation machines so that kids can practice making 911 calls and feeling comfortable to report. But also if they call an accident, to, you know, stay on the line and talk to the dispatcher and not be scared to talk. But just engaging a lot of different community helpers and teaching the kids about safety.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Anybody else for Chief?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Councilor Giglio.
Yeah, Chief. I just had one question, and it's a question you've answered before, but I feel like it might be good to just kind of hear your answer. So currently, so when you're, what is the current policy? So when someone is camping on property, what's kind of the current policy in terms? Are you like telling people where to go? What's kind of the policy? Because I think the policy element of how it's in practice implemented is so important to this conversation, and a little hard to see when you just see the law itself. So
Right.
what's kind of the current policy on that?
Right. So how we always address stuff is first and foremost behavior driven. So whether it's on public or private property, if there's someone that's violating ordinance or law, we're addressing that. So currently, if someone is out here in the park and they're drinking, that's not allowed. So whether it's homeless or not homeless, we're dealing with the behavior. But beyond that, as far as like the camping, prior to last week, right, we didn't have that opportunity to just not allow people to camp. So we would address the behavior and then we would post the camps. So now with the new ordinance, we do have where they can't be camping on the city properties, right-of-ways, and in the parks. So the ones that we have addressed, we've started with the education piece. You can't be here, you can't be camping. Not you can't be here, but you can't be camping. And then, we'll move on to the next level if that need be. But we always look for compliance. We look to give resources if they need and want to get to somewhere that's safe, that we can help get there. We've got a brochure with resources if they need outreach and that sort of stuff. But our job is law enforcement, right? So we have someone that's violating the ordinance or someone that's violating law, and if they're not allowed to do that, then we educate them that they're not allowed to do that and look for compliance and work to move them to where, that they can't be there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I also had one other announcement with Chief, and that is, and thank you, Mayor, for bringing this to my attention. International Overdose Awareness Day is August 31st, and we are planning on some social media posts in the days leading up to this event. I don't know, Gwen, if you want to say anything more than that at this point in time, or?
So yeah, and it's so fun because anymore there's a national day for anything and everything, and there's a, but in this respect, it's about bringing attention and awareness about something that's, very serious. And so we want to do outreach as far as education. Overdose can affect a lot of different walks of life and families and communities. And so we'll use that day to do some public education. But also, I believe purple is the color to bring awareness, and so we've got some plans at the PD on how to incorporate some purple into our presentation in public and bring that awareness.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. I hate to interrupt, but we're just right on this thing, and I just want to tell you from the 81 homes that I visited, he was addressing one of the main issues, and it's not that people aren't moving along and the police come. It's the people that are on the designated spot. It's 8:01 a.m. They don't leave.
We're good.
That was going to be part of my presentation to you guys.
That's fine.
So they come and they give them a ticket and they can.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
I'll give you a second. We're almost done. No, we're almost done. Go ahead, Chief. Are you done? Chief, go ahead.
Oh, okay. In regards to the National Day, I think just that we're going to work to educate and bring awareness, and then we've got our own special way to acknowledge that as well and bring awareness when we're out on patrol.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
Councilor Giglio.
Yeah, so I guess along the lines of, I believe what the question was getting at, think that is that is a good question. So what happens at, say, let's say 808?
Hold
let's
on,
say it's-
hold on. Let the chief finish talking about the overdose day, and we're going to come back.
Okay.
Are you done, chief?
I am done,
Okay.
thank you.
Sorry. Yeah.
All right. Sorry, chief. Go ahead, Councilor Giulio.
Sorry. Yeah. No, I think that is really very important. It's a huge topic. And so I thought that you were done. So I was
You're right.
Just
you.
just to clarify that. I do think it's important. So on the enforcement piece, when we get to 8:01 a.m. with the daytime camping, if you're in one of these areas, what's the policy in terms of the enforcement on that?
Right. So it's going to be kind of as with anything, right? If we've got priority calls, we're not going to be in all these areas at 8:01, but we're trying to do our patrols right now to hit these areas and make sure there's not someone in violation. It's also complaint driven, so if someone calls and says we do have an issue, we're going to be responsive based on what our priority of calls are. But if we respond, there's someone outside of the hours that they're allowed to camp there, then we would address that as a trespass issue.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Ort.
Chief, what does a trespass, what does that scenario look like?
What's that scenario look like? So again, it's going to kind of be dependent. We're going to start with compliance. They're not to be there, so they need to leave. Sometimes, we've got a discretion. It could be, okay, you didn't know, we're educating you, here's your warning, you need to leave. It is a crime, so they can be cited into court, they can be taken into custody. We're just going to have to look at each individual case to know what's fitting, if they've been warned before. But we're always going to look for compliance, and we're always going to look for how do we problem solve this for the future so we don't continue to have the problem.
Anybody else? Okay. Thanks, Chief.
You're welcome. Mayor, that is all of my communication.
Okay, thank you. What I want to do is I want to make sure that the question that Councilor Giulio had, both of yours have been answered, or in regards to Mr. Walker.
I believe so. I believe so. I did have one question, I think, for you, Julia. Is there currently, so let's say, it seems to me, right, that the policy right now is we're not directing people anywhere. But let's say there's a lot of push, there's a lot of, push absolutely comes to shove, and is there any property we currently have available that is not zoned residential on the list that someone could be at that's not zoned residential?
Yes, and thank you for asking that, because I was going to chime in, but I wasn't quite sure. If push comes to shove and someone is in a park and we've offered resources and they just are desperately looking for a place to locate, our first recommendation will not be residential areas. There are a few properties in sort of commercially areas. I'm not sure of the exact zoning, but they're not in residential home areas that would most likely be the first place that we would recommend that they go. And given that we really haven't had any issues to date, our hope would be that would be it.
Thank you.
But we will not be creating a map or marking and highlighting these locations, because we would like people to not be camping, frankly.
Yeah, we don't want to encourage and let people know exactly where. Yeah, absolutely.
Is there any other questions from council?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Ort, go ahead.
I noted in one of the public comments that it was mentioned they don't get the newsletter because they do the auto payment, so they don't get the bill in the mail. Is that our standard, or does everyone that has a water bill get a newsletter?
I'm going to let Alyssa chime in on that.
Or does every house get a newsletter?
It should be. It should be being sent out via email to paperless people.
Okay.
That is the goal, and I have a note to follow up to make sure that is happening. So
Is there a way that we can have people opt in to both?
So the way that it works with the paperless is through Express Bill Pay, who does our paperless billing. There's an option that you can send out a newsletter. It's like a separate email that comes out. I get it from Sublimity. That's actually how I first learned about it a year more ago. But I get my bill, and then I get a separate email that's like, here's your newsletter. So it should be happening now. We've had some staffing changes, and so I've made a note just to follow up and make sure that is in fact happening.
Okay. But can we send the newsletter out to everyone regardless of whether or not they have, can we do that?
Let's explore that. I mean, I think what you're saying is an additional mailing.
I know people don't want the mail.
Yeah, so there's two different things in play here, because we use a company who prints and stuffs our bills, and that's how the newsletter gets into
it goes
the
with both.
Yeah,
Okay.
they go in one envelope together, and so they're getting, my understanding is that they're getting, everyone who has paper bills, they're getting that. And
Okay.
then we've got Express Bill Pay that does the paperless side.
Can we look into that and
Yeah.
see? But both of those, make sure that the paperless are getting the emails.
Yes.
And if you do have paperless billing, please check and make sure that you are getting those emails. And if not,
We have
let these gals know.
coming here shortly. So
And then,
it'll be
yeah,
good
can you
to-
check both of those?
And I'll also add, again, and I appreciate Mr. Walker getting the signatures. We have our interested parties list, so with that allows me to do direct emails to people on that interested parties list of upcoming meetings, any surveys. The utility bill was one resource that we used. It was not all the resources that we used. We also had it on our website, social media. We had flyers with QR codes, so we tried to get the word out through as many methods as we could. Again, we can always continue to improve and do better, but that interested parties list direct email will be the most sure way, assuming we're not on someone's spam list, of getting that mailing. But we also will explore if there are better ways to expand our reach of the newsletter.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Go ahead. I think, Julie, there's a better way, and I think Mr. Walker alluded to it. I think what we do is we adopt the land use notification anytime there's an issue on a piece of property city-owned, just adopt the land use notification to that adjoining neighborhood. So, something to consider.
And that can work if it's not a city-wide initiative.
Agreed.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
Agreed. Okay. Is there anything else from council? With that, I want to leave an opportunity for the rest of the audience to have some interaction. So would the council commit to staying just 10 minutes after, just to interact with the audience, if they would? Okay, thanks. And what I want to say rolls right into what I had planned to say tonight. Over the last 4 months or more, better, I know that everyone up here has made an effort, a concerted effort, to try to tackle some big issues in the community, and it doesn't go without saying that you can see the stress level that's put on yourselves. I've been in several meetings where us trying to make the right decision, do the right thing, has led to some serious stress on the folks that are trying to do this. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing. The last meeting I was at was a public meeting, and representation from Councilor Patty, and Councilor Patty did a fantastic job talking to the school board about their concerns about the homeless folks and what the council's taken direction to try to help them and their concerns. And I know that wasn't easy for him to do. And so I want to make sure that you all have an ability to reach out and talk to each other, talk to anybody, that just to get it off your chest, because I know it's weighing on you. And so I really appreciate the efforts that you and the Homeless Task Force have done to try to address this issue. It's not easy for any of us up here. It's not easy for the audience, obviously. It's a hot topic, and it's not going to be resolved tomorrow. It's not going to be resolved next week. As I mentioned before, it's a court process. There's a lot of stuff going through court still. For example, the city of Portland and the city of Redmond or Bend are being sued because of the restriction on the 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. camping right now. So it's going to keep evolving. There's a distinction right now about allowing, what's the difference between RVs and being able to sleep in your vehicle? Right now, it's a rudimentary effort for them to stay warm and dry. They can sleep in their vehicle, but what is the difference between sleeping in your vehicle and sleeping in an RV? Still not determined, even though the state code and the DMV distinguishes between RV and car. So there's so much more that's going to continue to challenge us, and it's not going to be resolved in the short term. So please continue to come to the meetings, get involved, express your opinions, vocalize. That's what we need to hear. And it's not that we're doing this maliciously. We are honestly doing our best to try to get through this whole situation. Anything else, Council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Council Ward.
I would also urge you, so while this was a court decision on the Ninth Circuit Court federally, and affects not only just Oregon, but our surrounding areas, but also the state legislature codified this in our laws. So even if that court decision hadn't come down, your legislature set these laws for us that we have to follow, and it puts us in this situation where they say, this is the law, you have to deal with it, and then they wash their hands of it, and they're like, okay, you have to deal with it now. So it's really important for you not to just come here tonight, but get involved, or try at least to get involved in the process before we make these decisions. And that's why we created the task force, so that we could hear voices. And I do see some faces that were at those meetings, so I appreciate you coming to those. But also you need to contact Ed Deal and Senator Fred Girod. They are on our side, they agree with us, but the more people that they can get information from, how this impacts you, then they can bring that to their fellow legislators as well. They need to see how this impacts not just the homeless community, but the citizens in our community as well. But this wasn't our decision. This is just us trying to figure out how we can, yes, it was our decision, but this is us trying to deal with the cards that we were given, and yeah.
And I will say to that Marion County Commissioners have been really well to help us as well. Commissioner Bethel was, I just had breakfast with her last week. She wants the reporting to her, to the county, so the county can provide whatever possible resources we don't have the ability to do. And we're really going to interface with them and try to partner with them to try to help us address the issue too. So that's all I got to say about that. Anything else?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Sims, go ahead. Hold on, Councilor Julie.
I just wanted to make one plug. Ed Deal is going to be here in town for a town hall on Thursday. I believe it's 5:30 at Snow Peak. So if you're interested, that's another good venue to talk to somebody at the state legislature.
Here? In this building?
Snow Peak.
Yeah.
Snow Peak Brewing. Yeah.
Councilor Giglio, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that I just wanted to continue to add on, I think, what has been said. I think that it's 100% true that I think like every single person up here, the intention, the heart is is that we are wrestling with really, really complicated issues. The heart is that nobody's camping in residential areas, and the heart is that we're trying to do our best to kind of navigate this situation while we are abiding by some of the constraints that are not of our own making, right? And so I do think that what we're at is an imperfect solution, right? I think it's when it said is like it's one of the bad options that all the bad options, right? I think that it has solved some things, that we're in a better place today, a much better place today than we were like a week ago, right? Because I think now we have some real tools of enforcement, some real tools to be able to have areas protected in terms of public use. And I would just say this is not the end. I think this has already been said, but this is, everyone here has worked really, really hard, but this is not the end. Like, this is not the finished product. This is not where we're going to be. I think, you know, in the future, this is still, the task force is still meeting through the end of the year. There's going to be more recommendations. We're still going to be meeting every 2 weeks. We want to continue to hear your voice, how, like, what you're seeing, and to really be able to respond to that, right? To respond very, really quickly. And so that is my heart. My heart is like, when this, to make sure that we are responsive, and that the ordinance, the final ordinance, right? We can't make a change on the ordinance tonight because we can't notice the meeting in time, because you can't change an ordinance that's already been put into effect in the same meeting. You need to notice that for something like this. So we don't really have even the ability to change it tonight, which is one of the reasons we're not even having that discussion. But the task force meeting is coming up second week of September. Encourage you to go to that. Continue to engage your neighbors and continue to engage the community on, we really do want to hear. We want to know what's the problems, what are the things you're seeing, and to bring that feedback. That really is our goal, and I think that's been the goal of everyone up here. And I think we've been working really, really hard to do that. Imperfectly, for sure, and I think that, but still, working through all these different issues, balancing these different concerns, trying to get to the best possible outcome for our community. So I do want to thank you all for all the work, and thank you all for being here. I do think we're all working together for what's going to be the best outcome. That is the goal. Like, I really want the best outcome for your neighborhoods, for my neighborhood, for everyone's neighborhood, as we're working towards this solution. So really do, I'm thankful to be able to thank you for sticking around to talk afterwards, and I'm excited.
Thanks. With that, anybody else? Last one? Okay. With that, we're adjourned. Thanks.